All right, guys. I am very excited about this because this will possibly be the first time when you speak Russian outside of the classroom. Well, for Brandon, it's probably not the case, but for Abdallah, it might be the case. I don't know. Certainly for a prolonged period of time, it might be the case. And we will go to the restaurant, and I will probably let you guys do most of the talking. So it's kind of like our final project. Um, and it'll be exciting, maybe a little awkward, but awkwardness is a part of learning a language. It's unavoidable. You voluntarily choose to basically become a child again in the world of adults and put yourself out there in a vulnerable position and in a position where you will inevitably make mistakes. So that's part. It should be part of the fun, not part of the frustration, but part of the fun. Is I think the right way to look at it. And I of course you could play it safe and say as little as possible, but I think that would be not taking advantage of the opportunity. Um, I think I think it would be best to just let it fly, and maybe you say something wrong or awkward, um, but you'll take the chance on saying too much instead of saying too little, and in the long run, that's how you're going to improve faster. And I'm not just saying that, by the way. I'm learning Spanish myself, and I just took a trip to Mexico, and I've put myself in situations where the Spanish was above my capability. Um, and it was a little frustrating, but I'm glad I did it that way, and I still believe that that's the right way to do it. So I do practice what I preach. All right. Anyway, about enough about that. So just a quick refresher from the last lecture. I'm going to combine the two videos into this one. This will be our last video. Sniff, sniff. It'll combine genitive case and it will combine the restaurant words and also genitive case in restaurant context. So a quick reminder about genitive case. I'm not going to worry about applying it to adjectives here like we did in the lecture. That's going to be maybe too much information because there's going to be some other significant amount of information here. Um, for now, let's just remember that when we convert, all we really need to remember when we convert male nouns into genitive case, male nouns almost always end on a consonant. We just add "a" to that consonant. And often the accent is going to fall on that "a." So, blin uh, becomes blina. So, for example, blin, which means a crepe. So, if I ask somebody, do you have the crepe? У тебя есть блин? Which is kind of a silly question, but I just came up with it, so let's just go with it. Um, У тебя есть блин? And they will say нет, у меня нет блина. Because when we negate, it's like we're saying I don't have any of, and I'll get into the moment of the significance of that of. So they'll say like у меня нет блина. That's one of the examples where we use um, uh, the genitive case. And for female nouns that often end on "a," we will change "a" into "e," and um, the the accent will, I think, remain where it was. So, for example, one of the prepositions that triggers the genitive case is preposition for, as in for something, for the benefit of something, and that preposition is для. So, for example, how would you say this plate is for potato? And it would be the word for the plate is тарелка, by the way. It would be это тарелка для картошки. Not для картошка, but для картошки. Why? Because the word для triggers the genitive case. And the word картошка now transforms into картошки. Okay, so the most common trigger for genitive case is when in English we would use the word of. I want more of. I want a cup of. I want a plate of. Um, and other things. Whenever, generally speaking, whenever something can be translated with the word of, we have a situation like noun and noun, but noun of and then another noun. That second noun will be in the genitive case. But genitive case can also be triggered by these prepositions. That's not really going to matter, except this one. This one will matter in this class. Без, which means without. So when you say like, I don't know, I want lunch without tea. Lunch is обед. Я хочу обед без чая. So the word chai, which is tea, now is transformed to genitive case. Why? Because without or без has triggered the genitive case. Now, so we'll see that in examples. And here I give another example. Plate of борщ. How would you say that? Well, it would be тарелка борща. Notice the word борщ gets an a. Why? Because the word тарелка, plate, remains the same. But of борщ triggers the genitive case, and there's no extra word in place of, but the word борщ becomes борща. Just like I gave example here, блин becomes блина. And again, the accent is on the a. Okay, so anyway, that's a quick review for the genitive case. The extent to which we will be using it in this video. Let's keep going. All right, and one more thing I want to point out. Do you remember that special word that can be translated as more or still or yet? We'll be using that word a lot in this video. And that word, of course, is еще. Еще. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so these are common verbs that I came up with that will come in handy in the restaurant setting. And let's go over them. Most of them are actually perfective. They imply an action that has completed or to be completed. But that's not going to matter very much for our formula, and you'll see what I mean. Let's go over them. Взять. Взять, which means to take or to have taken, as I like to translate the perfective forms. Now, this is a good word to use when we're ordering something. And yeah, so one of the ways of saying, you want to order something, you want to take something. So the verb to take is взять. Now the word нести, which is imperfect, means to be carrying. We will not really be using that, but however, as I went over in our previous lecture, when we apply various prefixes to an imperfect verb, it becomes a perfect verb with similar meanings. And here's an example of that. So the verb нести, when combined with prefix при, принести, excuse me, the accent is on the last syllable, becomes to bring or to have brought. And унести combined with нести combined with prefix u becomes to take away. So obviously you can see how This can apply to restaurant when we can request that something to be brought or something to be taken away or not yet be taken away. Um, it's good to know these two verbs, принести and унести. Сесть. Сесть is to sit down or to have sat down. Закрыть means to close. And счет is account or bill. And закрыть, just like in English, we can close the bill. I think people say that. People usually say pay the bill, but in Russian it's common to say закрыть счет, which means to literally close the bill. We also have закончить, which means to have finished. Закончить. And начать, which means to begin. Now I included there's чего, like with what. When you hear with what and you think about how to translate it, you might want to say что, с что. But this is что in genitive case. And I'm not going to discuss why it's in genitive case, but let's just remember that the common question is like what to start with. С чего начать? Literally we're saying with what to start or to begin. So начать means to begin, and с чего is often combined with it to create a question. All right, so knowing all that, let's see what we can say now. And I want to remind you of our formula. So we just learned a bunch of new verbs, right? And we don't have time to remember how those verbs are conjugated for each individual pronoun. But luckily, we don't have to, because we can plug them into our formula and we can quickly make effective sentences with them. So just a reminder, our formula is, I want, I need, I can, I like. And so it's going to be я хочу, I want, or мы хотим when you're speaking for the entire table, which means we want. Вы можете is a common way in a formal way that you would be maybe asking a waiter, like, can you da, 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 da. Мне нужно or нам нужно, which means I need or we need. And then мне нравится. Now this one we will not be really using with the verbs very much in the restaurant setting, I don't think. But I wanted to include here because it's part of our formula. But anyway, that's just a refresher on what our formula is. And now let's see how that formula is going to work with these new restaurant verbs. But first, I wanted to begin with the most important question for you, Brendan. What do you have without meat? And you'll be asking this formally because we will always speak formally to our staff. And just a reminder, without meat is без мяса. You probably remember that the word meat is мясо with the letter O, but it becomes a letter A when in genitive case. So how would you say, what do you have without meat? Что у вас есть без мяса? Что у вас есть без мяса? Что у вас есть без мяса? Where can we sit? Где мы можем сесть? Где мы можем сесть? Now remember that little word Yeshua? And this is one place we're gonna this is one of the places we're gonna use it. And here the word chai becomes in genitive case. Why? Because you can think of it as more of tea. Now people just say more tea, but what they really mean is more of tea. And anytime you have that of potential, keep in mind that's a trigger for genitive case, and the word chai becomes chaya. So knowing all that, how would you say formally? Can you bring more tea? Вы можете принести еще чая? Вы можете принести еще чая? Вы можете принести еще чая? Now, as I was saying before in our lectures, messing up the case, forgetting the case is not the end of the world. If you said, вы можете принести еще чай, that's not grammatically correct, but it is, you might even sometimes hear Russians say it that way. So, um, but either way, you will be understood. That's the important point. So I want to say that, we should try to speak correctly, but if we're in whatever stressful situation, we're just having like uh, drawing a blank, and just let it fly, and chances are you will still be understood. So don't stress it. Just go for it. Yes, you can take it away. And this is also formally. Да, вы можете это унести. Да, вы можете это унести. Да, вы можете это унести. Um, in this case, the feminine word fish, will have to be converted to accusative case. In riba becomes ribu. I want to take borscht and fish. This is a this is an okay way to and possibly very possibly even the optimal way to make an order in a restaurant. You're basically saying I want to take this, and it's understood that you're not taking it. You don't just want to take it. You want to buy it. You want to take it and pay for it. That's implied. So um, in an American restaurant, if you think about it, we'll say yeah, I'll take that's a very common way to order. Now I could have, of course, also given you the future tense for взять, but I want to emphasize how we don't even need to know that. How with our formula, we can very close to optimal quickly and effectively express ourselves. And so without even knowing the future tense, we can just say, I want to take, and that implies I will take. I want to take borscht and fish. Я хочу взять борщ и рыбу. Я хочу взять борщ и рыбу. Here's that word еще again. No, I haven't finished yet. Now, remember, we just learned this verb to finish, to have finished, in indefinite form or infinitive form, but we also remember how to quickly convert those verbs into past tense. So you should be okay here. No, I haven't finished yet. Нет, я еще не закончил. If you translate it, if you put the word order directly from English and said "Нет, я не закончил еще," that's a little less natural. That sounds less natural, but it's fine. You'll still be understood. But the most natural way to say it, "Нет, я еще не закончил." And this last one gets kind of smudged. I know they're separate. "Не" and "закончил" are separate words, but if I say it naturally, "Нет, я еще не закончил," they basically become one word. They sound like they're one word. I can close the bill, which implies I can pay the bill. Я могу закрыть счет. Я могу закрыть счет. Я могу закрыть счет. Do you remember the word for better? It is лучше. Лучше. And then, now in English, often when we ask questions, we put prepositions in the end. So what we really mean to say is with what is better to start. But the common way to ask this question is what is better to start with? We put with at the very end. In Russian, you will not do that. You will say as if with what is better to start or to begin. С чего лучше начать? С чего лучше начать? Now you can hear that "с" and "чего" are separate. They're written as separate words, but when pronounced in a normal conversation, they're going to get smudged into one word. С чего лучше начать? Okay, now let's learn some more restaurant words. Words that will most likely be used when we discuss food or ask about food um, from the staff. Sladka. Sladka. Now that's an adverb for sweet. Um, you can also transform it into adjective when you're describing some particular food item, and then you have to agree to the gender of that food item. Sladka. Ostra. Ostra. Now, in the context of food, it means spicy, but literally, but in other contexts, ostra means sharply, sharply, like something sharp, like something that can cut. Um, but again, in the context of food, that's spicy. Вкусно, вкусно, tasty. Again, that's an adverb, and if we're describing a particular dish, we would have to agree to the gender of that particular dish. Um, любимая, любимая. Literally, no, любить means to love. So любимая literally translated as loved, but in this context, it'll be favorite. And here I'm providing it as an adjective in middle gender. Now, why am I doing it middle gender? Because there's a word блюдо, which means a plate of food, and we will most likely be using this adjective with that word, and that word is in middle gender, so I'm already providing this adjective in middle gender. Любимая, любимая. Um, okay, I messed up this slide. So I included two adjectives here. Okay, so another one another good one you might want to ask is which dish is popular? And for this, again in middle gender, it would be популярное, популярное, популярное. Now I did say I messed up this slide, so I included right here the word холодный, which means cold. It's an adjective in male gender. So this was in middle gender. Sorry for the confusion. Middle gender and then male gender. Холодный. Холодный. Холод means cold as a noun, and холодный is an adjective pertaining to cold. And here it's a male gender, so if you're describing a dish that's cold, but it's a female gender, you would have to agree the adjective accordingly. Горячий. Горячий. This is an adjective for hot and in male gender. Now, hot is in temperature, not as in spice, because we already covered the word for spicy in English. We use the word hot to describe food that is spicy and food that is hot in temperature. But in Russian, there are two separate words. Горячий. Жирно. Жирно. This is an adverb for fatty. Fatty. Like something is fatty, you know. Горько. Горько. This is an adverb for bitter. Again, if you want to convert these to adjectives, you will have to agree them to the gender. And if you see that, can I move this thing? No, I can't move it. Anyway, свежий. Свежий. And that's, I provided here in male gender, adjective for fresh. Fresh. And I think we've covered these words before, but they will come handy when we talk about food and describing our food to maybe the staff or to ourselves. The word достаточно. Достаточно means enough. And its opposite is недостаточно. Or actually, I put the accent in the wrong place, but because I wanted to emphasize that there's no prefix не, but the whole word, the accent is still on a. Недостаточно. Недостаточно. And also, when we want to say like maybe something is not enough is недостаточно, but the opposite of that is слишком. Слишком. And that can be translated as too as in an excess of something, too much of something. All right. So now we know some words we can use to talk about food. What else do we want? Okay, we want nouns. So those were adverbs and adjectives. Now let's talk about nouns. Соль, salt. Перец, pepper. This is the word that I was talking, and that's talking about блюдо. And that's a word that we will use to describe a dish of food, as opposed to just a dish, like just a piece of ceramic. But when we talk about items on menu, that's going to be the word we will use to describe items on menu. Блюдо. Блюдо. Ложка is spoon. Вилка is fork. Нож is knife. Notice the gender here. What gender do you think ложка and вилка are? It's feminine gender, but нож ends on on the consonant is of male gender. Чашка, cup, тарелка, plate, еда. This is like a catch-all word for pretty much all things edible, which means food. Сахар is sugar. Лед in Russian means ice, but with ice it's put into instrumental case and it becomes со льдом. Со льдом with ice. Стол is table. Stool is chair. And салфетка is napkin. And then I also want to include this word, официант, which means waiter. And we already, I think, had we already know the word to begin, which is начать. And here you see the similarity here. The word сначала means from beginning. So начать and сначала. Сначала from beginning. Okay, I think that's all the new vocabulary. I know that's a lot. This is like a final project, guys. This is the final project. You probably will have to go through this video more than once um, to really feel good about going to a restaurant. And to be honest, even if you go, more than once, you'll still probably make mistakes. But like I said, don't think of it as part of um, failure. It's part of the fun. All right, here we go. Let's put all those words to work. Where is our waiter? Где наш официант? Notice the gender of the possessive pronoun for our, which is наш, has to agree to the gender. Now, if we get a female waiter, it's going to be официантка. But you can also use I believe you can, for some professions, you can use the male gender term to the female professionals as well. And by default, you will use male. Like let's say you walk in and you don't even know the gender of your waiter. You will say где наш официант. But then when you see, let's say she's female, then you would say где наша официантка. I should have included that in this line. And honestly, at the moment, I'm drawing a blank a little bit. Would it be acceptable to use the male, the male term for the profession when we already know that it's a female? I actually think it would be. Yeah, because it's the same way as with teacher. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and say you can use the male term, even when you know that the professional is a female. Do you like it? Yes, very tasty. Now I'm putting it in square brackets here because in Russian we don't need to say it. In English that sounds more natural if we say do you like it instead of just do you like. But in Russian we will just say do you like and it will be implied. Do you like it? Yes, very tasty. And this is informal. Тебе нравится? Да, очень вкусно. Тебе нравится? Да, очень вкусно. Okay, let's work with these two words. Too much and not enough, which are слишком, what do they use? Respectively, yeah. Which are respectively слишком and недостаточно. Here we go. Too sweet. Слишком сладко. Too spicy. Слишком остро. Too fatty. Слишком жирно. Too bitter. Слишком горько. Notice the soft sign here. So instead of saying слишком горько, it becomes ре. Слишком горько. And now let's go to something not enough. Now in English, we kind of split it up. We say, now I could say not enough spicy and I will be understood. But the more natural way to say in English is not spicy enough. In Russian, we're not going to break up the not enough. We will start with not enough and then add the word for spicy. Недостаточно остро. Недостаточно остро. Not sweet enough. Недостаточно сладко. Now, in English, this is not a natural way to say. If someone has enough, we'll find some other way to say it. But in Russian, if we translate this directly, this will sound very natural. And this is informal. Do you enough? This would be something like maybe you are you want to know if somebody basically has enough to eat. Or maybe you're beating up someone and you want to know if they had enough. Anyway, that's, I don't know, it just came to my mind. The point is, that's how you would say it. Тебе достаточно? Тебе достаточно? Again, a reminder for genitive case. So far we've been using it with adverbs. When we use it with nouns, these nouns will have to be turned into genitive case because we can think of um, too much of something and not enough of something. Now, even if we don't pronounce it in English, like not enough water, for example, um, it's implied, okay? It's implied that there's not enough of water, not enough of. And if it's implied or pronounced, it will probably trigger a genitive case. So, um, too much of something would be слишком много. And not enough of remains the same, недостаточно. And again, the male the male noun will get a added to it, while in female noun, the last a will be changed into e. Not enough salt. Now, salt is a tricky word because it's sol and it ends on a soft sign. So instead, the soft sign will be converted into e. Недостаточно соли. Недостаточно соли. Too much sugar. And the word for much is много. Слишком много сахара. Слишком много сахара. The word for sugar is сахар, and we're adding a at the end of it. Now, do you remember that I said that this a will get the accent? Well, apparently not always. That accent sign is a tough one, guys. It's sometimes it just feels random. So in this case, the accent sign remains on the first a. Слишком много сахара. All right. Now let's go over some potential questions that we could be asking our staff, maybe to help us recommend a dish. And this is going to be formal because when we talk to staff, it's going to be formal. What is your favorite dish here? Now, when we're asking what is your favorite dish here, we're really asking which is your favorite dish here. And for which, we will be using the word какой. Какой. Except we have to agree it to the middle gender of the word dish in Russian. Какое ваше любимое блюдо тут? Notice we're agreeing all of these in the middle gender. Какое ваше любимое блюдо тут? Why middle gender? Because the word блюдо is of middle gender. Words that end on O in Russian are usually of middle gender. Какое ваше любимое блюдо тут? Which dish here is most popular? When we want to say most popular, there's a word самый in male gender, and we will just use it in front of the adjective, except we have to agree it to the gender of the adjective, which will be the gender of the noun that is describing. So самый here will be самое. Самое. Which dish here is most popular? Какое блюдо тут самое популярное? Какое блюдо тут самое популярное? Какое блюдо тут самое популярное? Is this dish hot or cold? Implying, is it going to be served? Is the food on this item, menu item, will it be served hot or cold? Это блюдо горячее или холодное? Это блюдо горячее или холодное? All of the descriptive items here are converted to middle gender. Это, which in this case is, what do they call it? Directive pronoun? I forget. The point is, it's in middle gender. And so is the verb, so is the adjective for hot, горячее, and so is the adjective for cold. And why are they middle gender? Because the noun is the one that drives the gender, and it is in middle gender. Это блюдо горячее или холодное? Это блюдо горячее или холодное? Can you make it without meat? Brandon, you might find yourself asking that. Um, we haven't really learned the verb for make, but it's going to be the same as to do, except it's going to be in the perfect form because we're like asking, can you have it done? You can think of this question as, can you have it done without meat? And this is going to be formal because we're asking the staff. Вы можете сделать это без мяса? Вы можете сделать это без мяса? Oh, that was too fast. So a good, when we need something, just, we're going to be polite and just saying, hey, I need this, I need that. That's a little too direct. A good way, just like in English, is to preface this by saying, excuse me. Hope you remember how to say that. And I put me here in brackets because in Russian it's just going to be one word and me is going to be implied. It's going to be the imperative form formally. It's going to be the imperative form um, in a formal way to say it for the verb to excuse. I hope you remember what it is. Excuse me, we need one more fork. Now, there's a lot going on here. So, I hope you remember that when we need a noun, we have to convert the word for needing something to the gender of that noun. And one more, here the word for one also becomes converted to, in this case, female gender. So one more will be еще одна. Еще одна. If we were not referring to count nouns, these are nouns that can be counted like one fork, two fork, three forks. If we wanted like more water, which is a mass noun, which is not countable, we would not be adding одна in there. But we would just say еще and then went straight to water. But because it's a count noun, we'll be using we will be saying specifically how many more of these count nouns we need. Okay, that's a lot of information, guys, but that's Russian for you. It's complex. Here we go. Excuse me, we need one more fork. Извините, нам нужна еще одна вилка. Извините, нам нужна еще одна вилка. Excuse me, we need one more spoon. Извините, нам нужна еще одна ложка. Извините, нам нужна еще одна ложка. Excuse me, we need one more knife. Notice we have a gender change here. Because knife is of male gender in Russian. Извините, нам нужен. See, the word нужно has changed gender. Нам нужен еще один. Instead of одна, один нож. All because of the gender of this noun. Извините, нам нужен еще один нож. Excuse me, I need one more small plate. Извините, мне нужна еще одна маленькая тарелка. Извините, мне нужна еще одна маленькая тарелка. Извините, мне нужна еще одна маленькая тарелка. Excuse me, I need one more cup of tea. And here we will show off our use of genitive case. Извините, мне нужна еще одна чашка чая. Извините, мне нужна еще одна чашка чая. Some of these might not be the most natural way to say them, but I wanted to keep it simple and consistent. So I'm really just focusing on functionality right now instead of saying this things in the most optimal way. I think for our level, given how much new information there is in this video, um, I want to keep things as simple as possible, even if a little bit at the expense of um, saying things most optimal way. Do you like this salad? Yes, very fresh. And this is informal. Тебе нравится этот салат? Да, очень свежий. Notice свежий is in the gender of salat, which is male. Тебе нравится этот салат? Да, очень свежий. Wow, guys, it's our last slide. Our last slide of our last video. I'm getting a little teary-eyed, I'll be honest. It's been lots of fun for me and hopefully for you. You know, I hope you get started on this video early. I hope you're not going to wait until like an hour before we go to the restaurant because there's a lot of information here, and I think you really want to take more time with it. Otherwise, you'll take the chance on you know not putting your sentences together in front of the staff, which which is already going to be maybe a little bit of a stressful situation. So if you're not well prepared, it's going to be even more stressful, and we want to um, do everything within our control to come prepared. So, but anyway, I have some closing thoughts, but I'll say it in person. Anyway, see you all tomorrow.